Good morning, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. I am standing in the backyard of my Portland, Oregon permaculture garden. You can see the rain garden behind me, behind that the annual veggie patch, behind that and ringing the perimeter of the property is my orchard, where I also keep my honeybees, my ducks, and chickens. The front yard of my garden has a food forest set up with a canopy of food producing trees that are underplanted with beneficial pollinator attractor plants, medicinal plants, and annual and perennial understory food crops. So today I want to talk about 5 of my favorite late flowering plants for a sunny location. 5 great perennials that bring beauty to your garden, but also are wonderful food for bees. I'm not just talking honeybees, I'm also talking bumblebees, sweat bees, longhorn bees, many kinds of native bees, and also hoverflies, butterflies, etc. These are great plants that don't start blooming until July and go all the way into October in my climate. And they just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and provide beautiful visual interest and a consistent supply of food for our pollinators. So let me show you these 5 plants that are easy to grow, and I think you might want to consider them for your garden. First plant on my list is this one right here. This is Zagreb Coreopsis. You can't go wrong with any Coreopsis. It is a consistent bloomer, does well with crummy soil conditions and low water, just blooms and blooms and blooms. You can get it in a variety of colors, from white to yellow to pink to orange, but this Zagreb has such a lovely sunny yellow color, and this light ferny foliage is a good contrast to other things here in my rain garden. So I really like growing it. It does spread slowly to form a clump, so it's really easy to divide it and share it with your neighbors if it gets bigger than you would like. I've particularly noticed that the osmia bees and the longhorn bees like this, as well as bumbles. But boy, oh boy, the osmias love this plant. The next variety I want to talk about is this plant right here. This is an aster. You can't go wrong with any asters. This is Aster Munch. We also have the native Douglas aster here in Oregon. I grow several kinds of aster, but this is the first one to be blooming. I've noticed more species of bees visit my aster, not just bees, but also hoverflies, than any other plant in my garden. I have counted more than a dozen species visiting this plant. Some I couldn't even identify. Just a great bloomer. It does need quite a bit of space. Comes back year after year, also easy to divide and share some with friends. Third on my list is Echinacea, also called coneflower. Now you can get the species one, you can start from seed. I have the straight species Echinacea in my front yard, and in the back here I have some cultivars. I know there has been talk lately about how we really shouldn't use cultivars if we want to feed pollinators. From what I have read from bee scientists is that the bees don't really care if it's not native, as long as they can access the pollen and the nectar. And echinaceas, as long as you don't get the super double, triple ruffle ones, as long as it is an open-faced flower that's easy for them to land on and easy for them to access the nectar, they don't care if it's a named variety or not. They can feed from it, they can enjoy it, it's good for them. So don't worry. If you want to grow all natives, that's great. If you want to grow all species varieties and don't want to grow hybrids or named cultivars, that's great, but don't stress if that's what you put in your garden. So the fourth plant I have back here is different than the other ones. We have 3 really nice open face, easy access plants, which you know pollinators are going to love. And then we have one that looks a little different, and I put it in here for visual interest. It is light and airy. I love the way it floats in the breeze. This is Sanguisorba. This variety is called Crimson Queen, and it is just beginning to bloom. You can see here it's just starting to open. This is what it looks like when the flowers are open. And I found that hoverflies and small species of bees, little sweat bees, really like this plant. It's just such a nice change from these other more rigid and kind of daisy-shaped flowers in the garden. It's something different, and it also blooms forever. It starts blooming in July and just goes and goes and goes and goes. And again, you can see it kind of moves in the breeze, and it's just such a great addition and a change of texture, but still providing the necessary food for our pollinators. So we're now up here in the front yard amongst pumpkins and basil and things like that. I have a chaste tree here in bloom. And the last one I want to mention is Rudbeckia. It is just beginning to bloom. You can see all of these buds, tons and tons. This is a hardy plant, doesn't need extra water. It does well in poor soil. The common name for the one I'm growing here is Black-Eyed Susan. You can see just beginning to open. Again, that classic daisy shape that pollinators really love. Easy for bees to land on and feed from. Now this plant does walk. You can see I put a clump of it in here and it has spread over this way. Another one, easy to divide, easy to share with friends, easy to put it where you want it, not too aggressive. Now Rudbeckia comes in many other slightly different shapes, but many other shades of yellow and orange. Not all of them have this dark center. In fact, there are a couple of varieties I really, really love that are very pale yellow with a pale yellow center. All of them excellent bee food, great choices for sunny spots in your garden where you don't want to have to worry about watering or fussing over the plants, and you're going to get a long bloom time from July all the way into the cool weather of fall. So if you got something out of this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to learn more about permaculture gardening, cottage gardening, and regenerative living. I also have a Patreon in the description. And if you aren't interested in becoming a regular monthly contributor, I have a PayPal. You can throw a couple of bucks at me if you like my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back.